Welcome to Fun and Fundraising, everybody, the podcast where we talk with people behind top nonprofit galas and signature fundraising events to showcase how they positively transform their communities. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, and today I'm excited to have Michael Kitner on as a guest. So Michael is the new Chief Development Officer for the Andy Roddick Foundation, and they have their upcoming gala, which is one of Austin's, for many, many years, has been one of the city's top fundraising galas each year. It's always features a nice musical headline performance. It's always got a really nice crowd, and it's always does a lot of good for a lot of kids in the Austin community. And, I wanted to have Michael on to talk about this wonderful organization, as well as, he's relatively new in the role and how he utilizes, his newness in the role and really utilizes a gala and a fundraising event to get to know donors better. So with that, Michael, welcome. And we're so excited to have you here today.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. I'm really grateful to be a part of ARF and excited to talk more about our work, including our gala coming up in November.
Fantastic. Well, we're excited to have you. So talk a little bit about what the mission of the Andy Roddick Foundation Gala or Andy Roddick Foundation is.
No, that's a good question. So the Andy Roddick Foundation does a lot of different things, but to put it in more in that mission statement and moment, we're closing the learning gap for students here in Central Texas and have been doing so for over 25 years, 12 in Central Texas, focusing on improving the lives of K through fifth graders through out of school time care. So when students, K through fifth come to the Andy Roddick Foundation during our nationally recognized summer camps, they're getting not only mentorship opportunities, educational opportunities through STEM education classes, they're getting to learn without even learning. So often than not, single parents in underserved communities have a hard time finding affordable childcare for their kids and families, and they're making sure that's affordable for any type of community. But we want to make sure that they're having fun, they're having a safe place to go, and they're getting to see their peers year over year. So the Andy Roddick Foundation, we have a spring summer camp that actually is an overnight camp for fifth graders heading into sixth grade, into middle school in March, and then during the summer we serve over 200 kids across 2 elementary schools in East Austin. So for us, we're really proud of having a 1-to-6 ratio for our staff members, for those students, and getting to see the smiles on their students' faces during the summer, making sure they have equitable care and also have fun while doing so.
Absolutely. And it's so important, and I've had the good fortune of being at the gala several times, so I'm familiar with the mission, but the fact that it really does allow children from disadvantaged communities to really have the opportunity and the footing to really make a success of themselves in their lives and seeing, and now that the organization's been around for a while, you do start to see in some of those videos now the end result. And it's got to be really cool for you all as an organization to see, what we're, children in this program now become successful adults.
100%. And to build off of that, and even taking a step back, Andy Roddick, most people are familiar with him and his Hall of Fame tennis career, but he had, a really unique opportunity to explore tennis as a young child. That was his passion. That was really what drove him in his career and his personal life and opened the door to so many different possibilities. And when Andy Roddick retired, he said, everyone remembers me for tennis. I did something wrong. And that's where the foundation has stepped in and trying to find that spark for those students through our curated summer camps of what really sparks them. So whether, let's say it's tennis, it could be lacrosse, it could be those students becoming doctors, lawyers, going into trade school, really creating that spark like he created is what we're all about.
That really is a fantastic mission and a fantastic organization for you to join. So talk about, and I know you have a nonprofit background, but talk a little bit about how you got involved and got into this position and what made you say yes to joining the Andy Roddick Foundation.
100%. I went to school at Southwestern University in Georgetown, Texas, so just right outside of Austin. And we had a career fair where one of the university representatives, he worked in development for the university and talked about his career in fundraising and focusing on raising money for scholarships and Title I students. And that opened up a whole new possibility for me. I didn't know what the nonprofit space looked like. I thought it was more around volunteering like most people do, but more in a business development and fundraising position really got me excited. I knew I was always sales focused, but working for a for-profit just didn't always resonate with me and get me out of bed as much as focusing on those different missions. My mom was a big philanthropist in the DFW community, so many Saturday and Sunday mornings we'd volunteer at Scottish Rite Hospital and different food pantries. And so having that as a full-time career early on got me excited to jump into the Central Texas nonprofit scene. So I've worked for organizations like Live Strong and Marathon Kids here in Austin, and over the past 8 years have worked throughout my career in development, whether it be corporate partnerships, galas, different peer-to-peer fundraising events. I've worked at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis for a few years, helping their markets develop kind of our relationship-based focus here that we have in Central Texas. So I've had the pleasure coming back and focusing that in a Chief Development Officer role with the Andy Roddick Foundation and really broadening our reach and our awareness here in Austin.
That's fantastic. And the one kind of common underlying thing is a lot of the stuff you have focused on has either been at-risk children or really people in a disadvantaged state like Live Strong with Cancer. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what makes you passionate about, the Andy Roddick Foundation's mission of really helping these at-risk school-age children really get ahead and have a good footing and a good chance in life.
Yeah, when I talk about investing in the future, and I love to use the term return on impact instead of return on investment, I think with the Andy Roddick Foundation, we have a huge return on impact, and it's something tangible you can see with the amount of kids we serve, and then even talking to the kids and staff really wowed me throughout the interview process and just kind of being a fan of the foundation from afar. Taking a step back during COVID, I think parents really realized the importance of affordable childcare, effective childcare. And thinking I was at Live Strong during COVID, working at the time, but I didn't have kids myself. But I wondered how could someone, even on my salary, afford affordable childcare here in Central Texas during a pandemic. So flash forward, 4 years later at the Andy Roddick Foundation, we've been doing that throughout our history as an organization. So for me to be able to be a small part of that, monumental change, really got me excited about the role and just our position as an organization.
That's fantastic. And, as a new chief development officer, so you're coming in kind of, midstream with, the preparation for the gala and all that. So
Yeah.
talk about how important a gala and a signature fundraising event like the ARF Gala is in helping you understand the organization's donors, connect with the donors, and for you to really ultimately build strong relationships with them.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, I think you hit, the hammer on the nail relationships. I think that's the biggest part of galas I've experienced and really what we do well at ARF. Every nonprofit organization, and I'm sure those who you talk to, they really try to make it unique to their mission. I think for the Andy Roddick Foundation, that's tried and true, not only with Andy and Brooklyn Decker being a huge part of what we do throughout the event, just being personal, getting that one-on-one time with our donors, but also bringing our students into the mix, our alumni into the mix. But I think it's a great opportunity to get our face time with our donors. Even though we're an Austin-based nonprofit, people are busy, throughout their day-to-day jobs. They're leaders of companies, they're volunteers and boards of other nonprofits. So I think for one night for all of us to celebrate, I'd really like to call our gala like the Super Bowl of our mission. It's really that ending point, even though it's November or towards the end of the year each year. I really think it's that Super Bowl mission moment for us because it's a time to celebrate our impact, recognize our donors, and have fun doing so. And I know we'll get to the music portion, I'm sure a little bit later, but that's also a really sweet component as well. So making memories and building those relationships, whether it's a first-time chief development officer, this event allows, but also our long-standing staff and employees to do so as well.
Absolutely. Now, historically in your career, how do you approach, let's say, a corporate sponsor versus someone who sponsors a table? So how
Yeah.
is the approach different from you from a development perspective in terms of what that donor particularly wants to get out of their sponsorship in an event versus what I want to get out of buying a table?
100%. I think for companies, especially, we're catering to their network of employees. So even though they might invite friends, we want to make sure that when, let's say PwC or longstanding partners like Truist of ours come to our gala, they're not only having a great event themselves, but it's a great employee experience. Whether those employees are active donors of ours, we want to make sure that every one of those employees leave knowing what our mission is. They felt that corporate social responsibility moment, that mission moment of theirs, and then making sure we're kind of fulfilling on our sponsorship requirements. So I really think with more companies, it's that hand-to-hand approach of making sure their marketing materials and logos are on all of our language, that their employees know about our mission beforehand. Even, in my past, I've always done lunch and learns and have been a big fan of kind of going to companies each quarter to make sure, even though we have an event, maybe or a gala at the end of the year, that we're kind of making sure there's volunteer opportunities before that, that they feel really a part of our mission. So it's not the first time they're hearing about our mission when they walk in the door, whether they're active donors or not for the first time. They also have a whole different set of responsibilities in their day-to-day jobs. So we really try to make it tangible and easy for them to understand, the different price points of our gala sponsorships from a corporate standpoint. So we make our infographics fun, easy to use, and really digestible for them. And then from, I would take a step back for that donor perspective. We want to make sure they're having that mission moment. And no matter what level, whether they donated $1 to us that year or $1 million, we want to make sure that they feel that $1 million mission moment and celebrate their impact and where their donations have taken us in the past year.
Well, speaking of donations, you brought up something really interesting in your response I want to dive a little bit more deeply into. And that
Yeah.
is you were talking about, going to a lot of the corporate sponsors on a quarterly basis and doing lunch
Yeah.
and learns. Talk about the importance of, because I think a lot of, because as a development person, you've got a lot of hats you're wearing and there's a
Yeah.
lot of different people. But talk about the importance of engaging people year round as opposed to I'm not going to talk to you again for 6 months until I need your sponsorship again, and how that really helps you really develop really strong relationships with corporate sponsors.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, like 6 month, like set and forget. Like, I'll ask you for your check when it's ready for our event, but we won't talk to you then. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people in the nonprofit space, especially chief development officers, wear so many different hats. So I won't say it's disingenuous. I think it's probably more of a time issue. But I think, from my time at Livestrong and St. Jude, the best thing I've learned is really making that return on impact and that partnership a year-long process. If I'm doing my job right and we have a corporate partner, hopefully they would have seen me at our volunteer events throughout the year. We definitely want to make sure that their workday is inundated with a lot of outside activities, but we want to make sure that when they think of the Andy Roddick Foundation, they think of our mission, they know it's fun, they love to get involved, they feel comfortable inviting people on LinkedIn from their other networks. So really making sure it's that year-long commitment, and also knowing like when they want to feel good, they'll come to us, because so often than not, it can feel transactional. And I found in my career, especially, getting our corporate volunteers and supporters, to our mission in person goes such a long way. It definitely takes more time from the nonprofit's perspective, but I think it's so much more authentic and fun in the process. I love to take photos and videos for our corporate volunteers throughout the year, and you can even use that for a gala as well. So it's a great, just authentic mission moment I love to capture and really push forward throughout the year.
Well, I really like that response. It actually kind of ties a little bit into what you were saying earlier about a return on impact. Because to me,
Yeah.
like when you were talking about I go once a quarter, you're really showing that return on impact, that their investment, the eye can
Yeah.
have multiple meanings, but the
Yeah.
return on impact that they're having because you're getting to say in the last 90 days this happened. We're getting to
Yeah.
sign up because of your support. We can sign up another 30 kids this year for the summer camps in East Austin, and whatever it is, it
Yeah.
gives you the ability to get that impact in front of them on a consistent basis.
100%. And I think putting the fun back and fundraising, just like your podcast, we really want to make it fun and tangible for them to do so. And whether that's after work hours or during work hours, really want to make it as easy as possible to kind of expand those volunteer opportunities and make sure they know what's going on right in their backyard.
Absolutely. And, speaking of fun, one of the things, I want to start talking about the gala a little bit here.
Yeah.
One of the things that's I've always appreciated about this event is I never know what night of the week it's going to be.
Yeah.
And there is something fun about that. It's not, I'm going to circle my calendar and on the fourth Saturday of this month, I'm going here.
Yeah.
There's a little, to me, there's like a playfulness with that there's an element of unexpected. I think any good fundraising event, any fun one, will have that
Yeah.
level of unexpectedness. So talk about how, that helps keep the event fresh and exciting for your donors, having it on a different night of the week every year.
100%. I know we've been doing this for, over a decade and have had different artists and different nights. I think, just being in Central Texas, I think there's an event every night of the week throughout the whole year. And so for us, getting to kind of go in that calendar narrative, I think it keeps it fun. Like you said, it keeps it interesting. And also from, like a live music perspective, whoever our artists will be, sometimes we're dictated on when their schedule allows us to kind of perform. So for us, it's almost just as much a surprise and fun for our staff as it is for the general public. But, I'd like to throw the term around. The Thursday is now a Friday Eve, and think the rest of the week, we kind of have that mentality as well with this event. Everyone knows, like, whether it's on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, people are going to mark their calendars for that time of the year, knowing our gala is the most important thing on their calendar. They want to celebrate. It feels like that mission moment. And we're trying to come up with unique activities to kind of make that surprise into reality with our sponsors, our major donors, our participants. So I think that mystique and kind of surprise feel really goes well with our event.
Well, and that surprise feel also really showcases and highlights how devoted the followers of the Andy Roddick Foundation are. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what some of the secrets are, and you've worked for a lot of really big high profile organizations. What's the secret to having donors come back year after year to the same event? Knowing that you've got to make it fresh and interesting each time, and that you deliver, and that they keep wanting to come back for more.
That's a great question. And I know all the nonprofits that have galas have that like Universal Studios mission moment, whether it's through a video, whether it's through a speech, whether it's from Andy Roddick himself talking about his experience at the gala. I think my biggest asset has always been asking questions from our major donors. So for us, I think we've really done a good job of kind of figuring out surveys, asking people year over year, what's been your favorite moment? Do you have any good or bad things that you can tell us to improve upon the experience? I think over, the past 15, now going into our 16th year of hosting this event, we've really tried to cater that towards not only like our live audience perspective, but our people sitting at our tables, participating in our auction, hearing our mission moments and seeing our videos, and our other kind of activations throughout the event. So I really think our donors and our participants are our greatest asset. Kind of like garnering that feedback has really driven me in my career, but also here at ARF coming up this year.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the piece about feedback, because that's so important. Because whether, someone is dropping $500 for a ticket, $10,000 for a table, or $50,000 for a corporate sponsorship, one thing they all have in common is they're giving up a night of their week to go. So you owe it, and people are like, well, should I really give that feedback? Because they may push you in a direction that you may not, I don't want to say don't want to go, but maybe that you're not ready for yet. So I really appreciate you saying the importance of really making sure that you're understanding who and what your donors want, whether they're a single ticket buyer all the way up to, your biggest corporate sponsor. And, I want to turn a little bit more to the gala. And, so it is held at truly one of the most special and unique spaces really anywhere for a fundraising gala, and that is the ACL Live at the Moody Theater, or the Moody Theater at the ACL Live. There's two Moody Theaters now, so we just say ACL Live just to avoid confusion, everyone. So talk a little bit about that space and how that really kind of helps elevate the overall event. And really, it's this infectious energy that comes into the space.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think when you say ACL Live, for any Austinite or anyone that's lived in Central Texas, they know that theater. They've seen their favorite concert or artist there in the past year, over the past, 30 plus years, the likes of Willie Nelson, Maggie Rogers, so many others, people that have performed at our gala, whether it be Seal, Leon Bridges, Elton John. It's really the host of such an epicenter of music. And we like to say that Austin is the live music capital of the world. And so for our event, to really further that narrative and combine it with a mission moment, and our mission at the Andy Roddick Foundation is truly special. So I really think you're not only coming to invest in the future of Austin and in our youth here at ARF, but you're also getting to see that live music component, which is just really fun, exciting, and makes you feel good, whether you know the Andy Roddick Foundation or not.
Absolutely. And the other thing about ACL Live that's fun is, and people have this misconception that, oh, in order to raise $1 million, it's got to be in black tie or everyone's got to be in suits.
Yeah,
And I will tell you, I've had the good fortune of going to quite a few galas at ACL Live. I can assure you, I have never ever once seen a person wear a tie. So
yeah.
talk a little bit about the casual, like how you think the casual nature of the event. And by casual, I mean people may be wearing sport coats and jeans. People may be wearing a nice dress as opposed to a ball gown. Talk a
Yeah.
little bit about how that relaxedness helps compel donors to give more.
I think it's a great, like really market question to Austin because the term "keep Austin weird," I think that definitely applies to our events. And even if you have, a black tie event, you're probably going to see someone there in Austin with jeans, boots, and a cowboy hat. That's just kind of how our city runs. We have that ingrained, kind of in our streets. And so thinking about that for our gala, I think it offers a great opportunity to expand, to kind of open the door, whether you are, an avid supporter of philanthropists in Austin, or you really are there to see the artist. I think it really opens up the door for participants to learn more about our mission, to enjoy a really cool concert, and then feel good doing so. And I think, from a monetary perspective, let's say, we have a lot of major donors coming in the door to further our mission that night, participate in our auction, make a huge donation. We love that. But there's also people that aren't ready to make that commitment and really want to see the live concert, but also donate maybe $100 or $500 on top of that concert. That reaching that audience and those groups of people, whether they're young or old, I think is a great opportunity for us, and hope other nonprofits that have, galas at ACLI feel the same way.
Well, I'm glad you brought up that last part, and especially that last part about, someone, the thing is when you have different musical guests, you're going to
Yeah,
have each one's going to draw its own crowd of people.
yeah,
So you get a lot of first time people, whether they are in the bleachers, and we'll talk about that in a moment, or they're on the
yeah.
floor at the gala. So talk a little bit about how you are able to, what's a successful way an organization can get a first time donor to come back the next year.
I think it, for a small nonprofit like ours, our team and staff will be spread out thin just in terms of, making sure we're talking to the people we want to talk to that night. Everyone feels valued, excited. If there's event logistical questions, we'll work with our event coordinator in the venue. But I think it takes an extra staff person to actually be in that area the night of, to check in with guests, to welcome people, to explain our mission, to have facts and stats, whether they're kind of mission moments from our campers themselves, or just verbiage to make sure they kind of know why they're there, they know where their ticket is going, in terms of buying it. And then I think from a pre-event perspective, looping them into our donor communications to make sure that they're excited about, like, whoa, my $100 or $500 ticket went towards the Andy Roddick Foundation. I'm seeing a cool concert for a purpose. That's really exciting. Making sure they feel that celebration moment well before the event, I think is really key for us, to make sure we can kind of keep them in the door, and treating them like an $1 million donor after the event. Because even if they buy a concert ticket for us year over year, that's still helping us further our mission and reach our goal.
And it's also goes to show, and that's what I love about ACL Live in particular, is you don't have to drop $500 or $1,000 to be a part of the gala there. Yeah, you may
Yeah,
not be there for the dinner, but you get to go into the mezzanine level or the upper level, and it's a small intimate theater, so every seat in there
yeah,
is good. And if you only have $100, you're able to do so. It's a tax deduction. They're able to give back. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, that it really doesn't matter the ticket level. And that
yeah,
what's interesting about that is it's reflective to me. I see that as reflective of your organization in a way, because you're bringing in the whole community for something that
yeah,
is about, the whole community and serving people of all different income levels, lower income level especially, to help
yeah.
them, the tides raise all boats with them. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I know, obviously I'm 6 weeks into the role, so I haven't been, to our event in the past, but I know we've had students come out, alumni, parents, whether they are kind of at the ground floor or at the mezzanine level, kind of sitting from afar. I think you mentioned the acoustics. I've been there many times to see concerts. You can hear everything. I mean, you can hear a pin drop, which makes it so special. So I feel like even though square footage wise, they might not be right up to the stage, kind of hearing wise, they can hear everything and be a part of it. So I think it's such an inclusive way, and such an Austin way to have an event.
Absolutely. It most definitely is. And, we've been talking, we kind of been dancing around the subject a little bit of the musical
Yeah.
performer. So, you mentioned, I mean, there's some pretty impressive folks like Elton John and Seal and Leon Bridges. So what
Yeah.
advice would you give to an organization looking to engage a celebrity or a high profile individual to be a part of their event?
I would really say utilize your board and your network to have that kind of hand-in-hand relationship with them. Fortunately, at the Andy Roddick Foundation, we're extremely blessed that Andy utilizes his network and his group of celebrities, friends, supporters to join in to our gala year over year to kind of land really great artists and legendary artists that will resonate with our participants and our donors. So utilizing his connections helps us in tenfold. I would also say making sure that they feel a part of the mission. I think Andy does a great job of that for us on the front end, just because if they think of Andy, they know his foundation, they know the work we do with our youth here in Austin, I think helps. But let's say for nonprofits that they don't know that, just making sure they have that candid conversation, treating them like a donor. Celebrities are people. In my career working with celebrities and in this space, you have to treat them just like a donor. And any, like, if you met them on the street, they want to be treated like people too. So I would make sure whatever donor communication you have or journey with a major donor or a $1 donor, that celebrity feels a part of it. They know they're making a difference. And then also making sure on the communications front, making sure they know what the event's going to tail in tenfold. There's so many logistics that go into a gala for any nonprofit, large or small, making sure they feel comfortable with the run of show and they won't ask to be ask things outside of their scope early on. So if you have to have those tough conversations early on before the event, please do so, because a month, 3 weeks, 2 weeks out of the event, it's going to get pretty crazy. So you want to make sure from their end they know what to do, they know who they're going to meet, they know what rooms they'll be in, they know what snacks, hotel they're going to stay. There's a lot that goes into that, but I think that communication and donor journey piece is really essential.
Absolutely. And like you said, they want to be seen as individuals. And I think so
Yeah,
often people think of celebrities as the immediate thing that they're most obviously known for. And, it kind of
yeah,
ties back to what you were saying in the beginning, that Andy wanted to be known for more than being a tennis player. He wanted to be
yeah,
known for this foundation. And, anyone who would ever run into Andy on the street, start with his foundation. Don't start with his tennis career. You'll get probably a 10-minute longer conversation by doing so. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, that, you really do have to treat them as individuals. So,
yeah,
what are some things that you can tease? I know you may not be able to divulge, who the guest performer is, but what are some
yeah.
things that you can tease about, the performer that you all are going to have this year?
Yeah, that's a great question. You're gonna have to catch me if I start to reveal too much. I know we're in the process of kind of like figuring out what our launch timeline looks like for our corporate partners, our major donors, and the public. But I think, earlier in our conversation, we talked about like that inclusivity and finding a happy medium for like all types of donors and music listeners and participants. And I think with this year's artists, they fit that bill. Everyone, no matter what music genre that you're a part of or music that you listen to, this artist is going to check that box, and it's going to check it in a big way. So for us this year, thinking about 2024 is an ever-changing year, just in this country, in our city. So we wanted to make sure that this artist just crossed so many different check boxes for our music fans and supporters of ARF. So it went through Andy, it went through our board, it went through our staff. Everyone had the same answer. They were so excited. It was a two thumbs up type of an artist.
One, I'm really excited to see and know who it is. But
Yeah,
two, I love that the end of your response there, because it's not oh, I know this person, I'm going to get them. To
yeah,
procure a musician or any celebrity, it went through a series of channels.
yeah,
It went through, whomever in the organization found it. It went through the lead and Andy. It went through the board. So it
yeah,
went through a process of it. Every single person bought into it. And I've seen several events where they bring in this performer and it should be really grand, and it's not, because there isn't that total buy-in from start
yeah,
to finish. So I really appreciate you walking us through that process of really those three steps. It's the organization, it's the lead, it's the board. Once you get all
yeah.
three of them aligned, then go ahead and get your performer.
100%. And two, on the flip side of that, when we have our release dates, we'll make sure our partners are kind of clued in the know. We'll make sure a press has a little bit of a teaser. We'll make sure everyone has the same type of communication templates. We'll have logos. We'll have a brand identity with this artist. So I think, just being a smaller nonprofit staff-wise, we want to make sure that everyone's in the know and we feel like it's a really good team buy-in. And I think our music listeners and event attendees are going to feel the same way.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about some other things, because we've kind of teased upon them a little bit, but we haven't talked
Yeah.
fully through. But talk about what people can expect in addition to the musical performance at this year's gala.
Yeah, of course, we're gonna have those amazing participants that come. They'll buy their ticket. It's gonna go to ARS Mission. They'll see the live music, and that artist perform. But when other attendees, like major donors or people wanting to sponsor tables, corporations, they'll get to walk into ACL Live on an evening and weeknight in the fall. They're gonna feel mission moments. We're gonna have stats and facts and videos about our summer camps and what that ticket really does for our mission. We're gonna have a pre-party before the event for major donors and sponsors to really celebrate that impact, get to have cocktails, drinks, music. They'll feel that privacy of ACL Live, but also that intimacy of getting to network and learn more about others attending throughout the night. They'll get to meet Andy in Brooklyn and other high net worth attendees before the event. During the event, we'll have a live auction, and we'll actually get to hear from Andy and Jamie Garcia, our CEO, about what their attendance and participation does for our mission. We're going to go through a lot of different really exciting auction packages that our participants love and paddles up. We'll get to show our gala video. So those donors, again, get to see behind the scenes of where their donations have gone or will go after the evening throughout the year, all culminated with that live concert portion, where more attendees will be up at the mezzanine, up on the balcony, getting to celebrate, getting to dance, and really getting to celebrate their impact with ARF, and then followed by a post party at ACL Live. So I think, a lot of our attendees obviously ride share that night. They have parking, we have valet attached to ACL Live, but it's such a central location for everyone throughout Austin to where it feels like that large event feel. Even on a Monday, Tuesday, weeknight type of night, they know from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. that they're going to be all engulfed with the gala.
Absolutely. And I will say you all as an organization do a really effective job with your VIP party in particular. And that's something a lot of
Yeah,
organizations struggle with because yes, everyone wants to be a part of it. And how do you be inclusive or exclusive? And I've been
yeah,
to many where there's like 15 people there and I'm like, that's not really
yeah,
fun. And you
yeah,
all really strike a good balance of it feels like a curated list. I won't use another word, but I'll use the
yeah,
word curated. It feels curated, but yet it's not stuffy. And I think a lot of that just goes, Andy and Brooklyn are just such warm people that
yeah.
it immediately makes it much, much more fun. So I really wanted to highlight that for you all because I think you all really, of all the organizations I've worked with, you all are among the best of the best in doing a VIP experience, especially for major donors listening, the right way.
Okay, no, that's great to hear. We actually, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but we had like an event last week at Boa Steakhouse. We had, pre-event dinner for our major donors, and then we had attendees just going to the casino night fundraiser, kind of like already attending at 7 p.m. But it was an easy transition feel. We had a private dinner. We walked into the event, and I think even though this will be my first time at our gala, you're gonna have that same feel of getting to interact with Andy and Brooklyn, our major supporters. Then you'll walk into ACL Live to this beautiful venue, in an amazing evening.
And it will be an amazing evening. And I know we're coming
Yeah,
up on time, but I want to end with
yeah,
this one question. And I think this is good for you, given it's your first year, but yet you've done this. This isn't your first rodeo at the same
yeah.
time. What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone looking to plan their first gala?
I would say, making sure that when you do set whatever monetary goal that you have, make sure that you have maybe a B goal of like a mission moment, whether if it's you want to talk to all of your donors throughout the evening in person, give them a hug, a handshake, make sure they have your annual report. Those celebratory moments, I think, would be whether you can track them or just kind of throughout the evening, come up with them on the fly, I think are really key. Everyone in the nonprofit space, especially the longer you in it, you know what a really good event looks like. You're going to be your biggest critic. And so I think for our team at ARF making sure, we're celebrating those small moments of the Super Bowl type moments with our donors throughout the evening, I think is really key. So I would say outside of like the logistics and the monetary goal of a gala, making sure you find those small moments to enjoy it throughout the evening, I think will keep you excited during the year and also give you a breather during the event.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned the small moments. In fact, we're 80 something episodes in. I don't think anyone's ever given that answer. And the thing is that people, major donors, a little thing will make them open up their wallet. And
Yeah,
I'm really glad that you brought that up because I don't think enough attention's paid to that because people
yeah,
may focus on the big shiny thing. So thank you for
yeah.
sharing and shining a light on that. And, I'm excited to be a part of it, something I've been a part of for many years, and I'm looking forward to this year's as well. And, I'm so glad to have connected with you, Michael, and I know you're going to do a great job with your first gala. So thank you for joining us today.
No, of course, Rob. Thank you so much for all you do for Central Texas nonprofits and everything you do for us here at ARF.
Absolutely. And the 2024 Andy Roddick Foundation Gala will be held on November 18th, 2024 at ACL Live in Austin, Texas. For more information, please visit arfoundation.org. And that will do it for this episode of Fun and Fundraising. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, reminding you to keep it fun, keep it interesting, and your guests will have a great time. Have a great day, everyone, and take care.